Ross, what does Sandy need to do to play this week?
It needs to hit KPIs at the our combination of doctor, physio and strength and conditioning hit him. So it's a strengthening issue. It's really coming on in leaps and bounds, so we're optimistic. But he'll need to do some... He doesn't do anything today anyway, normally, so there's no measure there. And we'll get to the end of the week and have a good look at it on Friday. But, you know, we'll give him every chance if that means maybe have a look around Saturday. That's what we'll do.
So by judging that, you'll name him tomorrow night to give him every chance?
Yeah, more than likely, yeah. It's difficult, the Sunday games. You've got to put in the squad. I forget exactly what it is. It's a little bit messier. It makes it a little bit harder, but we all work within the same confines, so that's okay.
And Langdon Ross?
Yeah, he trained. They did a little bit yesterday, so yeah, we're really confident with him. And clearly, there's enough performances that weren't up to scratch that allows Ed to come back in. So it's really important that we looked after him, and he should be able to give us some real run and zip because that's what he brings to the table. He's very similar runner to Brad Hill, so on the vast expanses of domain, it really helps you.
Could we see a couple of debutants, one or two perhaps, the Ruckman and the fellow from South Australia?
Who's the fellow from South Australia?
Luke Ryan.
Brandon Cox. Who said Luke Ryan? Who said Luke Ryan?
Luke Ryan's VFL.
Oh, VFL, sorry.
Brandon Cox in South Australia.
Yeah, it's interesting you pick those two. But no, we've got a bit of work to do yet. There's Tommy Sheridan played really well down there as well. We travelled Sean Darcy and Luke Ryan, which is always a bit of a tell that they're around the mark. So we've got a fair bit to work through. Really, no one's safe because of it's a performance business and coaches and a playing group. We've been getting some positive stuff because we've been obviously performing at a high level, but on the weekend we didn't get that done. So, you know, the focus narrows and we need to pick a team. We need to reward people that have been pushing up and make sure we keep that integrity around selection, which is a really important piece for us.
How much do you put it down to the conditions, Ross? The players, there hasn't been a lot of wet, but the players looked unsure for a while in the wet against Carlton and they fumbled a hell of a lot against Adelaide.
Well, it's a really difficult one to quantify. Certainly we played some good footy in the wet against Carlton once we got going, and one of the assistants said, "Oh, the rain, we play well in the wet." I said, "Oh, do we?" Typically, and that's the thing in the past, we're a different team, and it was we were really disappointed. I don't think it was. There's a bit about didn't play the conditions. We were fumbly, but I thought the energy levels and looking sharp and on the pace of the game and the intent and the physicality, that seemed to be lacking for whatever reason. And in those conditions, it was about territory, and we really did get smacked around the clearances early. So they got ground position, territory, and then as it got heavier, it got really difficult to move it out, and you know we didn't compete down the line like we would have desired to. So it just kept coming back in, and that made it real difficult. So I'm not too sure, but I think wet or dry, it doesn't matter. Like how we looked, we wouldn't have got it done. So it's not a look we like, and typically we've been able to bring really good intent for a period of time, but the season's telling you it's really difficult to sustain when you're really a working class and evolving list like we are. I think there's very few teams that can do what GWS does with amount of players out and against the evenness of the competition continue to get it done. So we're seeing even within games, if you drop off, teams are coming from behind from 40 points down. So typically once you get those leads, you don't lose, but it's happening a lot. So I think it's more than just about us. I think it's about the cycle of the season and the ebbs and flows of your group and your team, trying to keep them at a physical and mental level. Because at this level, if you drop off a few percent, that's what I'm saying, even within a game, the opposition get hold of you. So we're aiming to make sure they get to the line physically and mentally ready to go.
What was the feedback from the players as to why there was that drop-off on the weekend?
Yeah, we didn't ask too many questions. We really addressed it coming off the ground. We felt we let ourselves down, so start preparing yourself now to respond against Collingwood. We've got an 8-day, we're off travel, look after yourselves. And so we didn't dive too deeply, except to say you know, that's not the sort of story we want to write about ourselves, and let's continue to get back on and moving and write a good story.
You mentioned that no one's safe. How much do you back the players and give them one more chance, or how much do you make a statement on the selection front?
Yeah, well, it's not so much a statement, but it's about those that deserve to come in, and those that deserve to go out, go out. So that's a hard equation. It's hard to quantify that. You need to work through all of that and have a good look at it. And we've still got to get to match committee over the next few days. So I'm not really in a position to elaborate any more than what it is until we drill in a little bit deeper.
Injury-wise, did anyone come up sore?
That was the one positive, really.
Yeah.
You know, that we come out in pretty good shape. So we think Stephen Hill will train on. That was a big hammy he had. Got back a week earlier. But, you know, 2 games in, he should train on a little bit. And guys that have been really good for us were down a bit. We expect them to pop back up.
Ross, you mentioned GWS. Did that performance against West Coast with so many set off any alarm bells with other clubs in terms of their depth and quality?
Well, I don't think set it off. I think that's been acknowledged for the last 2 seasons. I mean, it's indisputable what they got at disposal. That's just a fact. So, and for us, it's not something I concern myself with, because we're in a position you just got to look after yourself, grow your own list, and but you understand what's out there and what you're trying to catch up to.
Is that hard to swallow a bit as a coach, or you just be pragmatic and go, what can I do? I can't do anything about it, but that's the way the system's fed them.
Yeah, no, I'm pragmatic. Yeah, it's a handicap event. It's been that for a long time. I think we all know that.
How do you assess Nathan Fyfe's form? Terry Wallace made some comments on Monday.
Yeah, I saw Terry's comments. Terry's paid to make comment. I often talk about the analogy of all the penny dreadfuls on the stock market, or little mining stocks. You've got to sell your story, and you've got to sell a good story to get heard. So that's how I see, what is there, 16 accredited journalists covering AFL football, and they're all little penny dreadfuls trying to get heard. So unfortunately, or fortunately, some of them, and it might be an accurate assessment, I'm not too sure, you know. So, and he's very knowledgeable. He was a great coach and a great player. But there's consistently a lot of noise and a lot of penny dreadfuls trying to be heard, and they tend to go down the sensationalist route because it's clickbait. So, but I think in Terry's case, I think he's got a view. I think the simple alignment would be, after a year and a half out, it takes a fair bit to get back to being your best. And Nathan's played some super halves and 3/4 of football, because, I mean, there's only 3 teams above us on the ladder. There's only 3 teams perform better than us on a win-loss, if you want to exclude percentage. So that's a reasonable performance. That means there's 15 either equal or behind us. So for a list for where we're at and what we're doing, I think Nathan's been super with our senior players, Mundy and Walters and Johnson, those sort of guys getting us to where we are. So you can't do that without Nathan playing very good football. I mean, that's just impossible, you know. So if you think about his second half against Essendon, he dominated the game. Against Richmond, he was really good. There was some North, and, you know, he really got to work. It's probably, if you're being really picky, you're probably saying from the first bounce to the last bounce, he's had some ebbs and flows. But I've got no doubt he's building and will come to that. You know, Nathan's very special to us. I think his captaincy is in its infancy, and he's already leaving a footprint, being able to drag a group along with him, along with Mundy and Sandilands and those guys. Did anyone tip us to be 6'4" after 0-2? I wouldn't have thought so, but that's been driven off the back of Nathan and his leadership and the leadership group.
Is it underlying how important Sandy is to you, the performance on the weekend a bit as well, or do you think that was part of the game?
There's no doubt he helps when he's there, but, you know, you got to be a midfield that can cope without that, and typically we've been able to do that, and that's why I was disappointed on the weekend. I'd expect our midfield to respond this week. There's no excuses there, because the tap's only one part of it. It's what you do at ground level. We all know that, don't we? So, well, yeah, we want a fierceness and intent around the ball that maybe wasn't there from the start last week, which I'm sure I'm backing our boys in. I believe in them. I believe where we're headed, and I've been thrilled and proud of their efforts over the last 7 weeks, obviously. But Adelaide have done that to Richmond, I think 90 points, and Richmond are playing pretty good footy. They've done it to Essendon, 90 points, and they did it to Carlton. It can be a cauldron. If you get off to a bad start and things go wrong, you know, you can lose hope pretty quickly, and unfortunately that's what happened.
What do you make of the challenge of Collingwood's midfield? Obviously their strength.
Yeah, you're right. They really got to work, aren't they? Pendlebury, we all know the superstar that he is, but you know, Treloar's a real offensive threat, and Sidebottom's a great player, really underrated. And Adams is a tough nut, and Grundy is a powerful ruckman. So they're really getting to work, and Wells going in and out of there. They've got some real class, haven't they? So it's going to be a challenge, and that's why they've been in every game they've played in, because that heartbeat of the team gives them real opportunity. Yeah, it's a real challenge, and there's no complacency here, obviously. You know.
Ross, as one of the most experienced coaches, do you have any comment on a bit of a trend this year with some players feeling the pressure of football and having to step away, and how it's happening to young people? And obviously, Collingwood player this week, one of your own guys probably. What do you think about? Is it becoming super intense for young people and they're struggling to deal with it?
No, yeah, look, it's really sensitive, so there's no specifics there. But AFL footballers for a long time have been 10 times more likely than the general population to suffer from a form of environmental depression. But that's the reality of, if you went to any high-performance sport in the world, and league and professional sport, that's why it's abnormal. You've got to choose it, and the demands are high. It's not come in and experience this, this and this and pay no price. I mean, you just put the scrutiny on Fife at the minute for a player who's playing pretty good footy. So that's just the environment we're in, coach and players. So it's a performance industry. It's what you sign up for. And no one's holding you here. You've got to choose it. So you can walk away. But most people don't like stress and anxiety. We're hardwired to be comfortable, and most people don't like it. Most people, when faced with it, you know, it gets on top of them and they decrease effort. But high performance and high performance teams acknowledge it and get to work. So it's just the reality of the industry we're in. But what's important is the care, support and respect that goes around that. And we've come a long way with that, not only in elite sport but in the general community.
Ross, there's been a lot of talk about the bounce, whether that should just go and umpires should just throw it up. Do you have?
I haven't got a strong view. I'm not sure if there's a club view. It's I understand the tradition of the game, and you know, Mike Fitzpatrick as a traditionalist wanted the bounce, but there's some inherent problems with the bounce. Clearly, for the umpires, it's a dangerous act. It wears their back out. They're putting the head down when big athletes are about to charge for the ball. They take their eyes off the game. There's a lack of consistency with it, but the romance of that, the unpredictability of Australian rules, it just ties in beautifully with it, doesn't it? So clearly there's a push to change it, but everyone's getting surveyed on and everyone's having their thoughts, and I think at the right time the right people make the decision, and you know, I'll just try and keep coaching.
Do you see an advantage for someone as tall as Aaron if it goes? The bounce goes and they're just throwing it up and he knows where the ball.
Well, I think there's a predictability and there's a safety issue in that, because when the ball bounces back over your head and you're stuck, you're a sitting duck for a 105 kilo man charging at you the other way. If you remember what it used to be like before the line, I mean, it'd be like Dennis Lilly coming in after a long run up and launching, wouldn't it? Like, I think it was Jeff White. It was ferocious, and they used to clash, and they had the PCLs, and it was a really dangerous business. So they've reduced that, but it's still. Actually, look around the room, I don't think any of us would like a ruck contest. So anything that sort of provides a bit of safety and consistency is probably a good thing.